From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, some 38 minutes ago. Vice President Lyndon Johnson has left the hospital in Dallas, but we do not know to where he has proceeded. Presumably, he will be taking the oath of office shortly and become the 36th President of the United States.
It appears that there is more and more fire and smoke enveloping the very top of the building, and as fire crews are descending on this area, it does not appear that there's any kind of an effort up there yet. Now remember, oh my God.
Oh my God.
That looks like a second plane.
I did not see a plane go in. That just exploded.
We just saw another plane coming in from the side.
You did. That was out of
Yes, and that's
view.
the second explosion. You can see the plane come in just from the right-hand side of the screen. So this looks like it is some sort of a concerted effort to attack the World Trade Center that is underway in downtown New York.
This is Morning Edition from NPR News. Good morning, I'm Caroline Mescon. It has been 10 years since September 11th, and to commemorate the 10th anniversary, we are going to recall the advancements and achievements in technology that have taken place since the assassination of John F. Kennedy, another pivotal event in American history. In order to gain more knowledge, we have reached out to professors and students at Elon University. Throughout our investigation, we listened to several first-hand accounts of how these events affected media and those who consumed it during those tragic times. We spoke with Dr. Don Grady, Dr. Peter Felton, Dr. Liebhart, and Professor David Cockrell, and students Lauren Cruzet and Shanna Lee Van Beek. September 11th and John F. Kennedy's assassination were both pivotal times in American history, where individuals remember exactly where they were and what they were doing.
A neighbor came by and said the president had been shot. And so at that point we turned on our television to watch what was going on. But it was unusual that I would not have been watching TV on that day. I mean, being home from school, but I had not watched TV all day. So I remember that day very well.
I remember there was a lot of crying going on in my family that weekend. My mother and father were crying over the assassination that happened on Friday and all through the weekend.
And I remember going upstairs with a faculty member sitting in a classroom watching the towers burn. And I remembered saying to him, those towers could collapse.
So I came to class, and my students were all just very dumbfounded that somebody out there hated us enough to do this to us.
This was the only time I remember that suddenly everything stopped.
Despite the almost 40 years between the two events, Americans had very similar reactions to both tragedies. However, the way they received the news was not.
The major media interrupted everything to say the president's been shot. And so nobody had media in their pockets or anything like that at that point. So I think words, it was during the day, so it was different, I suppose. But it was a much more authorized sort of, everybody knows at once. But they all hear it from the same very few set of voices. And that's not, I think, how 9/11 was experienced or bin Laden's assassination.
Mm-hmm. But I remember there being constant streaming of the World Trade Centers being, collapsing. And
for our generation and for 9/11, everyone and their mother, every news broadcaster, everyone who could form an opinion was forming an opinion. And so there was no definitive, here's a conclusion. It was kind of look to Bush to see what America should do, and from there, but a lot more scattered.
When Bobby Kennedy was shot 5 years later, they did the same thing. Everything else stopped. They went straight to this coverage of the assassination. But the mold had been created by the JFK assassination.
There was a lot more of it for 9/11. I mean, back in '63, there were like two channels, there was CBS and NBC, so you flipped back and forth between them two to see the talking head on one or the other.
Right.
I mean, here you had the gamut of all these channels and all these different viewpoints.
I think certainly coming out of the 50s, that the fact that you have a president assassinated, just the event itself, changed the way we looked at the United States and the government and life in general. And I have to think that the media did change.
It's shocking to believe that the assassination of John F. Kennedy spurred an advancement that would forever change the way the media delivered information. Since the 1960s, media has exponentially grown in ways that during that era seemed unimaginable. Both of these iconic events have had a significant influence on today's media. In a country that's constantly changing, it will be interesting to see how the media transforms in the next 5 decades. This is Caroline Mescon, NPR News, Elon University.